Welcome to the introduction of live mode inside of RC6. I'm going to just explain what it does and why you may want to try it at some point. Once you've learned the basics of Rapid Composer, it would be nice to have the option to play it in real time. And that's what live mode offers. So first of all, I'm going to compare it to the Sonia Score products, such as the Orchestra Complete and Opus and the Score, and then kind of give you a brief overview of what it can do, where to find it. So, well, okay, why don't we start with where to find it? All right, let's go to this new mode that's under the button right here. So we have the new F7 that we can switch to called live mode. So what is it, and why should I be happy it's there? You should be thrilled it's there, because once you get to know RC really well and you're past the point of any frustration and you're just doing what you need to do really quickly, then you might want to actually play all your compositions in real time, because it is a lot of fun and a great way to sketch and then save those ideas. Let me explain. All right, so here we have the orchestra complete, and let's compare the two, and I will hopefully show you how this works or why it's great. So in the orchestra, it's an orchestrator, just like Opus is a kind of built-in orchestrator, and the Score, right? And you play a chord down here in the appropriate range, and you get an animated play of whatever preset you have loaded. It will actually not just play the instrument as a chord, but it will play some engine components that might give you some small ostinato or arpeggiation, but as you're holding it down for up to 16 beats. And that can be a lot of fun, and it can really give you a lot of tools for creating music. Now, the same thing with something like Divisimate. And if any of you have heard the developers' demos of these grand orchestra presets, so he will play a chord and sometimes a melody along with it, and it will be playing the entire orchestra in real time, as long as you know the correct chords to play and you have that knowledge and the way to set it up. You can get really beautiful orchestrations played in real time. So you should watch those demos. That's the power of real-time orchestrating, all right? So now let's go back to our situation. Now, it might be a bit hard to believe, but this live mode, which just offers a few extra tools here, it seems like, and just a piano-like bar strip, it seems like, wow, how are you thinking this is some big real-time orchestrator now with just a few extra tools? And if you right-click on live, you will get even more new tools, but really, it's not much different than F1. So if I go to F1 or F2, which are still fully live and usable, and then you can go to F7, the new live mode, and back and forth. I can create something in live mode. I can edit in F2 by a flick of a switch, and back I go. So the setup is unbelievable, because you can use all the tools inside of RC plus new, very powerful real-time tools. And it's all available at your fingertips. Full editor, full phrase generation, all the browser capability, all the tools, the variations, the generators, everything. It's all available in live mode to enhance whatever MIDI you put into it. All right, so now back to the orchestra and a direct comparison. Orchestrating in the orchestra is very simple. It has tons of presets. You have just 5 instruments and limited mixing and a little bit of voice leading. Well, not voice leading, but voicing of the chords. And it's set up in a way that makes it easy for Divisi, right? Well, have you ever wondered and thought to yourself, gee, I like the orchestra, I like Opus, I like the Score, I like that whole idea. There's so much fun to play those presets. And if you listen again to the developer, they have a really talented musician playing the chords in and maybe playing some of the hotkeys for changing the scenes. And the demos are really good, and they are. And if you have some knowledge, you can get similar results. But still, to get the most out of it, you'd have to be, know your chords, know how to play them on the keyboard, and to get the most out of it. But you could do that in step time inside your DAW. But now, with what we have here, what if you said to yourself, what if they just took this further? What if they had like the Orchestra Complete 12? What would that look like? So we have the Orchestra Complete 4 here. What if we had like the Orchestra Complete 12 or 14 or something? Can you imagine what that would look like? Well, I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like this right over here. And you're saying, wow, I don't see much. Again, let me explain. So in the orchestra, we have limited mixing and voicing and all that, what I said, okay? It's pretty obvious. But it's a great system and I love it. And I'll buy the Orchestra Complete 5 because you can use these systems inside of this real-time system. So you can use all the glory and goodness inside of the score and opus inside this grand orchestrator live system in RC. So you're not missing anything. And I'm not trying to disparage the Sony Score products at all. They're the ones that inspired me to think about bigger systems. All right, so if everything inside of here was unlimited, instead of just if you could have any amount of instrument, any instrument, including phrase-based instruments, any instrument on your system or that you could buy in the future. And you could have voice leading and you could have voicing and divisi, and you're not limited to a small engine of ARPs and envelopes, but you could have any amount and full envelopes with presets and like a complete setup and a full editing system, right? Plus any CC data, not just what you find. Let's see if we can find it here under settings. Like you have some nice options. You've got CC1, 2, and 11, and you have a very basic humanize, but you had all the tools that I've explained in the last several videos with dedicated variations for humanization, every available MIDI CC data available on any track, including sustain, expression, modulation, anything available in the CC speculation or specs. So a lot of stuff you can do with dedicated lanes and dedicated savable and scalable envelopes that can be saved in folders and on and on and on. The full generators, everything, right? And because RC becomes the hub, and you could add as many tracks as your CPU can allow, and that's a lot, and every track can be mixed with unlimited capabilities because they are literally, RC is the hub, and all these instruments you plug into it, and every one of them can be mixed and have any effect put on that track that you normally do in a DAW. You have unlimited instruments, unlimited mixing, unlimited CC. All right, let's continue with the direct kind of comparison here. So let's take something like the score, which also has scenes, right? So you can take a scene and change it. And well, in the live system, you can also have intros and you can have different verses and bridges and choruses and endings. You're unlimited because all the notes can be spread out throughout, all the chords, I should say, throughout your entire keyboard. And even if you have a small keyboard, you can use transpose on your small keyboard to access all the available MIDI notes and octaves that, again, the MIDI specs provide. And I think that's like 144 notes and I don't know how many octaves. So even if you have an 88 note keyboard, you can still shift it around using the keyboard's transpose tool, and you can access even more octaves. So I'm basically saying you can just lay out tons of chords, tons of scales, and all kinds of intros and endings and verses, unlimited. So you're no longer limited to what's here. And like everything that's limited in one of these orchestrators, it's unlimited in the RC Live system because it's just set up that way. And with the full note editor on every track, right? In F2, full editing of the velocity in every note, full editing of any chord, any scale, any time. And as we learned in the setup structure system, you could have unlimited parts and lines, and every part and line can have its own tempo, its own key signature, and scale, right? Extremely, extremely versatile, unlimited. So, yeah, that's the difference. Now, you're saying, okay, but how do you get all that power? Why doesn't everybody do this? Well, RC was able to do this and then add live mode because it was uniquely set up to do it from the beginning. So the difference, what's the difference? Well, let me tell you as easily as try to explain it in the best way I can. So in something like the orchestrator or the score, the player plays a chord and he uses three of his fingers, and you play like a musician. You play like a piano player, except you're playing in chords. And as you play the chord, if the instrument has velocity, if it's sampled deeply, the harder you press the keys, the more those instruments will respond, not just in volume, like turning up a radio, but in the newer samples that were recordings of the instrument actually being played at a more rigorous level, right? So it's not like volume at all, it's way better. So you get all that as a player of one of these instruments. Now in RC, you can have an instrument on track one. It can be the score, it can be opus, because again, you can have any track, any instrument hooked up to any track inside of RC. So it could be indeed the score, or it could be a single piano or violin instrument, whatever, even a phrase generated instrument. That can be done in here also. So the difference is that you're playing a chord with three fingers, but you're in charge of when you change to the next chord. Your fingers move over and change shape, and that will play the next chord, but it's limited to your knowledge. Again, that's quite a limit. You have to have a lot of knowledge of music to really get the most out of this, or play it in step time inside your DAW and kind of sequence it like you would a normal instrument. But if you want to play it in real time in something like live mode here, I think there's a better situation. And it's more helpful for people who want to learn and grow and may not have all that knowledge right off the bat. But you still want all the dynamics of having the feeling of playing the chord, the dynamics of how hard you hit the chords and when you change chord. You get the exact same thing inside the RC real-time live system, but you're only using one finger. But that finger is doing the exact same thing your three fingers are doing here, three or four, depending on how big your chord is. If it's a big, thick chord, maybe five fingers. But you can set up that exact same thing inside of Rapid Composer in Live System. That's what it does. Let's just go into Live System here again. So the harder I hit my one finger note on my physical keyboard in live is the exact same thing as the player who's using three fingers. I choose when I play the next chord, just like he chooses here. I move my finger to the next note, and how hard I press that finger down, meaning velocity, the instruments will respond just like it does in any other instrument in your DAW. So you're getting the feedback of timing, of velocity, and your ears are hearing the changes in real time. And because you can set up any one of those keys on your keyboard to be a scale, and that scale can be as simple as one octave. And this, we thought of, why and how you would need to know where your chords are set up on your keyboard for this to work properly. And the best way to do it is to say that you could have your scale on one octave, which would be the 7 white keys and 5 black keys. And the scale is always 7 keys. And you could put your scale on all 7 white keys. The tonic would be the first, the second would be the second degree, the third note on the white keys would be the third degree, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth to the seventh. So your mind doesn't even have to think where the scales are. You just know that all the white keys are whatever scale you want it to be. So you could easily know, even if you had limited knowledge, that the tonic is on the first white key of every octave and the last degree is on the 7th key. And you can play any combination as you see fit until you feel comfortable enough to move on to other notes, maybe the black keys, which you have spice your chords set up on those black keys when you're ready to move your hands up there, right? So you're getting the feedback, the dynamics, and you're changing when the next chord is played, not by programming in chords and notes in MIDI. You're determining how long your chord's going to be and what notes are played and how deeply how many beats you're going to hold down on that one chord. You may like it a lot and you hold down and you have different notes programmed. You have different chords changes and evolving that's going to happen as you hold it down. But you decide and your ears decide when your finger moves over to the next chord, just like the seasoned piano player down here would do the same thing. It's just easier and it's easier to learn and you can do more with it. And it has special tools to give, and these are powerful real-time tools that I don't think anybody else has figured out how to do this, which makes this way over the top, way more powerful than a normal orchestrator. Unlimited new tools and an easier way to play it and learn it. But at the same time, it can be very simple. It can be extremely complex. As much as you want, it's all there. And at the same time, it can be recorded. All this can be recorded because the hub controls all the sub instruments, and that all the notes that you're playing on that one track of Rapid Composer are going to be recorded if you enable recording, or if you use retrospective recording, in case you think you're going to miss something, you probably wouldn't. And all those notes will be recorded and saved, and you can save it as your Studio One file. Or you can then, once you record your performance of all this orchestration, which can be as simple or, and I would say, even much more complex than this could be, not trying to disparage Divisimate at all. It's amazing. But I think you can do far more in a super preset and orchestration in here, because you can also create special tracks that control all of the key switching in any plugin that you have. That, because RC, remember, has relative and it has relative notes and absolute notes. The relative notes are part of the powerful real-time harmonization system inside RC. The absolute notes are what you need to control key switching, and you can have your real-time notes and chords on a track, and you can have your key switches automated on a separate track. Just set it to the same MIDI channel, and you have your performance here. You have your automated key switching. And remember, I said, if you're talented, you can play all the chords and big, wide chords and make it sound great, but you also have to consider the key switches. All the tough parts can be automated inside a real-time live mode system. All this can be saved to the super presets and recallable with one click. So you have unlimited presets once you start going. Now, unlike the score and the orchestra, which come loaded with beautiful presets, hundreds of them, this is an open page. So we haven't had time yet, at least I haven't for my own system, had time to create hundreds of presets. I have on my old re-MIDI system, which wasn't nearly as capable as this. But over time, I'm going to build up super orchestration presets, and for different themes, thriller, romance, drama, TV, motion picture, whatever, because it's completely open-ended. But eventually, one will have, tons of your own presets. Maybe you'll be able to buy presets. I don't, it depends what the community wants to do with this super real-time orchestrator, because that's what it is, in my opinion. Now let's talk a little bit more about this. It's important to note that live mode, I would say, is for the advanced user. And that's one of the main reasons I've created all the basic tutorials in the last 2 weeks, so that once you get comfortable and that you can use RC in a way that's very effective and you're not getting frustrated and you've learned how to use its unique, powerful system, then I would try live mode in very simple ways. And I'm going to have new tutorials how to start so you don't get frustrated and to taste the power, so to speak, and to get maybe used to the system. So it's an advanced system. It's offers really unlimited power, even for newer users, but it is a very unique system, and that's why you really won't find this in any other system. It's quite advanced, and for me, it's been just super as I'm discovering, how much better this is than trying to rig together re-MIDI to do this, and then I couldn't edit. I have to save it and then bring it into that program and then test it and then fix it and save it and try it. This is all done as simple as F7, F2, F1, F7, make a change back to F2. For me, it's a dream system. So enough of that. How can you know that, what I'm saying, it will be beneficial to you? Well, because everybody's different. I love this. This may not be for you. Good news is the developer has a demo, and I think the demo includes live mode. If not, maybe he will in the future. But the program is relatively cheap. I would definitely get the demo, not take my word for it, because I love this system. I might, it's what I wanted. But again, get the demo. The regular systems alone, F1, F2, all the things we've talked about in the previous videos are worth the price easily. That alone, the system, without live mode is still, I think, the best composing and sketching system there is. That's my opinion. So yeah, there's ways to try it out. Watch the videos and just consider that I think more and more people are beginning to see how great these orchestrators are. And some people are thinking, wow, what if? And I think, if you take the what if to a really grand level, you end up with something like this. And right now, I can't think of one thing after 6 years of trying to develop my own real-time system. I can't think now of one thing I would add to this other than maybe just fixing some small issues or adding the strength and the power is here. I hope to demonstrate that in upcoming videos. So yeah, I'm sure I left out some things because there's a lot to it. I mean, all these new tools, being able to shift the MIDI and get kind of polyrhythms and counter melody and be able to slow down one track against another track and to be able to input the velocity from the phrase or from your finger or a combination of both, a blend. These are some powerful systems. And then you have the scale steps transpose, which I've just talked about, which gives you that scalable harmonic shifting. It's a really, really capable new system. I call it the next generation. I think, there's so many people are going to these orchestrators. It's going to evolve to, it's going to eventually end up to having a system like this. And I think we're really lucky because this system is so advanced. And yet, the reason I think is not too many people are able or were able to understand it, including myself. But I pushed through. You know, I told myself, wow, this is a very unique software years ago. And on my channel, I mentioned that. But it was also frustrating years ago. Well, over time, many of the issues have been worked out. There are new tutorials from the developer and myself. And me personally, I've got to a place where I just look forward to using this. I no longer hit a wall that causes frustration and I close the program. I'm past that, and you can get past that too. This is, in my opinion, the best sketching and composing software. And I hope to share more of my thoughts on it in future videos. Hope you had a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.